Los Angeles has a relatively new sheriff, and sheriffs in LA, much like other counties throughout the country, are elected into office. And the way Alex Villanueva was elected into this position was basically as someone who ran as a progressive. He claimed that he was going to take ICE agents out of jails and prisons in Los Angeles. He claimed that he was going to protect residents of Los Angeles from some of the draconian policies the Trump administration is attempting to implement. But he actually hasn't followed through on that, and he ended up rehiring officers who had previously been fired because of excessive force, brutality, domestic violence. He has been a complete and utter disaster. And now the FBI is investigating the Los Angeles Police Department because there is apparently gang behavior within the department. Let me give you the details. The FBI probe follows allegations of beating and harassment by members of the Bandidos, a group of deputies assigned to the Sheriff's Department's East LA station, who brand themselves with matching tattoos of a skeleton outfitted with a sombrero and also a pistol. So here's an example of what that looks like. Now, I mean, it's not some cute group where they get matching tattoos. They actually carry out excessive force, and in some cases, if a police officer within the department needs backup, they won't send backup, which is a huge problem. The clique's members are accused by other deputies of using gang-like tactics to recruit young Latino deputies into their fold and retaliating against those who rebuff them. And one way that they rebuff them, or one way they retaliate against those who rebuff them, is by refusing to send backup when they need backup. FBI agents have been trying to determine whether leaders of the Bandidos require or encourage aspiring members to commit criminal acts, such as planting evidence or writing false incident reports to secure membership in the group. The deputies say that these leaders, Bandido leaders, who are alleged to control key elements of the East LA station operations, put others' lives at risk by not sending backup to help on dangerous calls, enforced illegal arrest quotas, and carried out other forms of harassment. This is just terrible in so many ways, and we have this sheriff now who seems to not want to do anything about it.
No, and it's extremely dangerous. And so kind of people understand this LA County Sheriff's Department, it's no joke. It's the world's largest sheriff's department. They have a $3 billion budget, 16,000 employees, also the nation's largest jail system. This man has a considerable amount of power for the things that go down in one of our nation's largest cities. And not only did he run on one platform, he completely flipped once he got elected. When I heard that LA Magazine called him the Donald Trump of Los Angeles law enforcement, that was a huge red flag that there is a serious and significant problem with Villanueva being in office and being the sheriff of LA.
We get mad a lot about when citizens say something about the police, the way they approach things. You even get mad, say F the police, call them pigs. All that stuff happens, but they're a danger. Within the ranks, when we talk about how police have their little cliques or even protectors of the circle the wagons whenever one of them gets in trouble, because the training allows them to do that, and also they back each other up in that. And it's always considered such a conspiracy theory. So when the cliques start happening like this in police agencies amongst each other, and things like not sending backup in a dangerous situation happen, how much do they really care about the safety and security of each other? When they say the number one thing a police officer has to worry about is make sure my brothers get home. I got to get on my wife and family. Do you really care when you're doing something like this to your brothers because they didn't get your ugly tattoo and jump on with your clique and do illegal acts? Is this Training Day or something? Is this Denzel Washington involved in this? They've been watching too many movies. Because if this is, once this is out now, I was gonna say if this gets out, this being out doesn't cause enough outrage amongst people to say what's going on. I'm not sure why we have this anger towards citizens who have a problem with cops, but don't have the same anger towards cops who have problems with cops. And by the way, are putting citizens' lives in risk too.
Right,
what if you call the cops and somebody's there and you're in some kind of situation and no one else shows up? Because I tell you what, when I'm trying to parallel park in Beverly Hills, 7 of them show up.
So
real fast.
So you're right. I mean, look, there are cops who are worried about their safety, and it is kind of amazing that even then, a story like this doesn't lead to the ouster of a sheriff like this. But honestly, in terms of the way the system works in the LAPD in Los Angeles County, he needs to be voted out, and re-election happens every 4 years. He just got elected. So you have to inform yourself and not just believe someone who claims that they're progressive, who claims they're gonna do these things. He was a lieutenant, and so he wasn't high in the ranks. There wasn't much evidence to his claims of progressivism. There was a lot of concern about how the LAPD was operating previously before he was elected as sheriff. And it's cost the county $7 million in county payouts over the last decade in lawsuits claiming excessive force by deputies known to have these matching tattoos, as well as to settle a case alleging harassment by an inked deputy gang. Now, I want to go back to one other part of the story that I think is relevant. So Villanueva is downplaying the significance of this terrible group, okay? Calling them a cultural norm and a source of intergenerational hazing among lawmen. The sheriff claims he transferred from the station 36 people who were associated with the group or were otherwise identified as problematic. But it actually turns out that most of these people were either planning on either retiring or resigning anyway, or they've been promoted. So it's not like they've been fired because of wrongdoing. Some of them have actually been promoted, and he has rehired people who have been fired for using excessive force and who have been guilty of domestic abuse. One of them is a cop. His name is Karan Mandoyan. He broke into his ex-girlfriend's apartment, and it's not like we're just saying this and assuming it. There was video evidence of it. In fact, let's go to that video right now. So there he is trying to break into her apartment. Internal documents showed, he was again fired for domestic violence and dishonesty and was later rehired by Villanueva. He acknowledged having one of these tattoos, but he was a member of the Reapers.
What do you think I'm doing? Yeah, I am. Stop trying to break into my house.
Okay.
Okay, film me, filming you. Here he is, opening my bathroom door. My bathroom door, trying to get in. Get the out of my house.
Yeah, he broke into her apartment and was later rehired by Villanueva. Yeah.
This is
the thing is, I've really been dying to get on this one, because the thing is, not only did he break into her house, allegedly he had beaten her up pretty good and she had bruises of that and held her down. But guess what? She's a fellow deputy. She is part of the LA Sheriff's Department. And all of a sudden, she didn't turn up to the hearing, but he was fired. Do you know how hard it is to get a cop fired? And that fact that they fired this cop, and then the civic association that is supposed to be overseeing this, the appeal process, they affirmed it. That's how confident everyone was that this is what this man has been engaged in. Yet Villanueva, one of his first actions in power was to go ahead and hire this guy back on the force.
This is what happens. I mean, his face was on was on her phone, obviously. Usually, if there's a burglar trying to break in a house and someone has a camera on them, they probably try and cover their face because they don't want to get caught. He doesn't care because the people in power are like, hey, it's all right. You can do illegal activity. You can break into your ex-girlfriend's house after assaulting her like this, and we'll be like, yeah, it's okay. Your face is on camera because who's gonna stop him? This is like a it can't even be like a Wild West movie, because Wild West movies have the law that's coming to get the bad guys.
Right.
But the law is literally the bad guys. But if you say it, you're un-American, you hate the cops, Blue Lives Matter, all that stuff. It's not one of those things where you openly just hate cops. I've said this numerous times. Cops are guys that are in our society, men and women that are in our society that happen to have a level of authority and a gun. And then if they're off, they use that authority and that gun to do whatever they want with it. And because we say, hey, you gotta trust the cops, because who words you gonna believe, the cops or this random citizen? And we always believe the cops because we've been brainwashed to believe the cops, despite what you just saw.
Right.
Yep, and the fact that she's a cop herself. And my concern, although they did not release her name, is that she's probably not on the force anymore, because she had the nerve to stand up for herself and say, I want this man to stop harassing me. I'd like justice.
To them, those are the bad guys.
Those are the bad guys.
Yeah, she said that he grabbed her by the back of her neck and squeezed it for as long as 30 seconds. She tried to hide from him in the bathroom, but he kicked in the door and broke it. And you're right, Adrienne, he committed domestic abuse and was later again rehired by Villanueva. It's just a devastating story, and this is the reality. You're right. You have criminals in police departments throughout the country, not just in Los Angeles, given the responsibility of keeping the communities safe, and that is not what they're doing. That's not to say that all cops are terrible people or bad guys, but you're right. They're just like, they're people. They're people, and in the regular population, the civilian population, you have bad apples, and there are supposed to be consequences when you act in a criminal way or a violent way. But we have this mindset that we have to protect everyone in the police force, regardless of how abusive and how violent they are.
Try getting hired at Burger King after you assault your ex-girlfriend and then try and break in her house and get caught on camera doing it. You won't get the job, bro.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.